Have you ever noticed something unsettling? The moment you start becoming genuinely strong. Not Instagram quote strong, but authentically, uncompromisingly strong, people around you begin to act differently. They don't celebrate your growth. Instead, they become uncomfortable. They crack jokes that cut deeper than they should. They offer concern that feels more like criticism. Some even pull away entirely, as if your transformation threatens something fundamental in them. What's happening here isn't personal, it's existential. Your mental evolution forces them to confront their own stagnation, and most people would rather resent your growth than examine their own limitations. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this phenomenon over a century ago. He knew that building a truly powerful mind, one that operates beyond conventional morality, beyond the need for approval, beyond the comfortable lies we tell ourselves, comes with a price. That price is isolation. But it also comes with something invaluable: genuine freedom. This isn't comfortable content. This isn't about feel-good affirmations. This is about the brutal reality of what it takes to become mentally unbreakable. When Nietzsche declared God is dead, he wasn't celebrating. He was issuing a warning that most people still don't understand today. He wasn't killing a divine figure. He was exposing the death of external authority, the comfortable illusion that there's some higher power taking care of everything, that there's a predetermined plan, a ready-made meaning handed down from above. The death of God means the end of all excuses. And that's terrifying, because until now, it was easy to outsource responsibility for your life. It was comforting to believe that everything happens for a reason, that suffering is part of some divine plan, that there's a greater good that will justify everything in the end. Nietzsche violently tears this veil away. He looks you in the face and says, "You are alone. There is no ready-made meaning. Now you are the creator." This is where the true construction of a powerful mind begins, because most people collapse when they realize they're alone facing chaos, without a manual, without guarantees, with no one to blame. But those who have the courage to face this without crumbling begin to forge an unshakable consciousness. Modern psychology validates this insight. Dr. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, discovered that meaning isn't found, it's created. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This freedom that frightens you is also the greatest source of power you can possess. When you understand that no one will come to save you, something within you awakens, a fire that compels you to rise even while bleeding." Nietzsche wrote one of the most profound statements in philosophy: you need chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. This isn't poetic metaphor, it's psychological diagnosis. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid chaos, seeking stability, comfort, predictability. But Nietzsche understood something that modern neuroscience is only now confirming. True strength isn't born in peace, it's forged in the fire of internal conflict. Think about the times you've grown the most. Was it when everything was fine? When life was comfortable and easy? Or was it when you were shattered, lost, directionless, forced to rebuild yourself with your own hands? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychiatrist, echoed this understanding when he wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Why terrifying? Because complete self-acceptance means embracing your shadow, your contradictions, your capacity for both creation and destruction. Nietzsche didn't romanticize this process. He faced suffering as a tool. If you can change your relationship with pain, with failure, with loneliness, you begin to shape something rare, an indomitable spirit. And it's precisely here that the world begins to be disturbed by you. Because while most people flee from chaos, you learn to walk within it. While others beg for normalcy, you create greatness. But this transformation requires a brutal break with everything you were taught about strength. Nietzsche didn't believe in the slow, passive evolution of humanity. He believed in rupture, in radical transformation, in creative destruction. That's why he conceived the idea of the Übermensch, the overman. This isn't about a superhero with mystical powers. The Übermensch is a being who has overcome everything that binds ordinary humans. Guilt, obedience, herd morality, the desperate need for acceptance. The Übermensch doesn't seek to be accepted. He doesn't ask permission to exist. He creates his own internal laws and lives by them, even if that puts him against the entire world. And that's exactly why his mind becomes unbreakable, because it's not built on others' expectations. But here's what makes this concept revolutionary. The Übermensch operates beyond traditional morality, not because he's immoral, but because he's created his own moral framework based on what enhances life, what promotes growth, what serves his highest potential. Modern psychology supports this idea through the concept of post-conventional morality. Psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg identified that the highest level of moral development occurs when individuals create their own ethical principles based on universal human rights and dignity, rather than simply following rules imposed by society. This shift in perspective changes everything. When you start to see yourself as a creator rather than a servant, the way you think, act, and feel transforms completely. But becoming this kind of being requires sacrifice. You'll have to kill parts of yourself that still beg for approval. You'll have to face the pain of not belonging. You'll have to bear the weight of building your identity from scratch, without guarantees, without applause from the audience. And most people cannot handle it. There's something no one tells you about the path of mental strength. The stronger you become, the lonelier you feel. And it's not because you isolate yourself by choice. It's because the world doesn't know what to do with you anymore. Nietzsche spoke clearly about this. The free spirit, the one who breaks away from common morality, who doesn't accept easy truths, who thinks for themselves, inevitably distances themselves from the herd. And that distancing hurts. But that pain is necessary, because real growth requires space. And you can't grow while being tied to others' expectations. Most people live within an invisible herd, where every thought is policed, every action measured by others' reactions. You've gotten used to walking in a group, thinking like the group, feeling secure because there are people around you. But what Nietzsche proposes is the opposite. He tears you away from that comfort and throws you into the desert. In that desert, there's no applause, no praise, no guide. There's only you, your doubts, your fears, your desire to give up. And that's where the real test begins. Nietzsche wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." That's the essence, the possession of oneself, the rarest and most powerful achievement anyone can attain. Because when you truly possess yourself, no one else can control you. No one else dictates your worth, and no one else can bring you down. But this possession comes with the weight of loneliness. You'll lose people, you'll be misunderstood, they'll call you arrogant, strange, distant. They'll try to pull you back into the mold. That's the price of not being domesticated. Nietzsche didn't fear tyrants or authoritarian leaders. What he feared and denounced with philosophical fury was the subtle, corrosive power of collective mediocrity. That invisible system that keeps everyone leveled down, that punishes those who dare to think differently. True tyranny, according to Nietzsche, doesn't come from above, it comes from the sides. It comes from the crowd that demands you remain small so they don't have to grow. And that's exactly what happens when you start to stand out. When your mind becomes sharper, your spirit firmer, your presence more uncomfortable, you begin to disturb, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something rare. You're breaking the mold. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a morality built by those who, unable to achieve greatness, decided to invert values. They transformed strength into arrogance, ambition into selfishness, independence into coldness. With this inversion, they created a moral system that protects the weak and condemns the strong. But make no mistake, it's not out of compassion, it's out of resentment. Modern psychology recognizes this phenomenon as tall poppy syndrome, the tendency to criticize, resent, or sabotage those who have achieved notable success or prominence. It's a defense mechanism that protects the ego from confronting its own limitations. Because the weak don't want to be saved, they want the strong to be destroyed. You've made it this far, which already sets you apart from the majority. Most people would have closed this video at the first provocation, would have run away at the first discomfort, would have turned it off the moment they realized this isn't content meant to stroke the ego. Because building a mind so strong that it becomes feared isn't just a choice. It's a renunciation. You will lose. You'll lose friendships based on superficiality, opportunities that require submission, the ability to be content with mediocrity. But in exchange, you gain something priceless: integrity, clarity, presence. You begin to notice that most people live in a slumber, and that your lucidity is frightening. Your firmness makes others tremble. Your absence is louder than the presence of many. Nietzsche didn't want to create followers. He wanted to provoke internal earthquakes. He wanted you to stop crawling for approval, to stop begging for meaning, to stop seeking in ready-made systems what can only be built with blood, sweat, and consciousness. He wanted you to become dangerous, not in a violent sense, but in a rare sense, so rare that your mere existence forces others to look in the mirror and confront what they're avoiding. You are not alone, you are just ahead. And that, my friend, is both frightening and liberating.